And also you could find me on LinkedIn. Or you can look on YouTube to find my TED Talk.
We're just going to pass it over to you and let you just take it away and just enjoy it. And I'll see you, like Dr. Kelly say, on the other side.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you to Dr. Kelly, who have become a friend of mine. And we, even though neither one of us had played football in 40 years, we still talk football. And so I'm Keith Hunter. And before I get started, I always like to start out with an affirmation. And so today affirmation is, what gets measured gets done. And what gets measured and fed back gets done well. And what gets rewarded gets repeated. And that's by John E. Jones. So, and also before I really get started, I would like to have the audience participate on what they've done to win the day. And then you can send those comments in and we can talk about them at the end. So how you won the day or how you thought you won the day, just send them in and we'll read them and go over them at the end. So I come from a family of 8 from Newark, New Jersey, and I was the number 7. I was the number 7th kid out of the 8, and my younger brother came later. And so at one point, I was the only one in school for a long time. You know, it was more important for the family to understand where their next meal was going to come from instead of worrying about going to school. So I was the only one who went to grammar school and went to high school and finished high school. And then I'm the only one that ever left home. But, before I went to high school, I didn't do all the things that I needed to do, or I didn't have all the help that I needed to do the things that I needed to do as far as studying and then study habits. So, if you don't have those things and you come from a large family and, it's going to be a little tough for you. So, as I go along and talk about my story, I'm sure you'll hear some things about how I won the day. And so, so I went to high school, and I went to Barringer High School, a high school that had a huge tradition football-wise. And then I came in as a freshman. I played on the varsity football team. And then my sophomore year, I ended up being the starting quarterback. And we played in the state championship and in front of 40,000 people in Giant Stadium. And so, but before that, I had to really get myself ready, because when you have a winning tradition and now you're going from a freshman to a sophomore, they put a lot of pressure on you. So you have to find a way to learn how to win the day. And so I was in high school in the hallway one day, and this teacher asked me, the white teacher asked me, what school are you going to? And I said, I'm going to the University of Iowa. And he said, great. And he walked away and went around the corner. And he assumed that I left from where I was standing at. And so what he said to another white teacher is, he said, I guarantee you that he'll be back here just like everybody else, talking about woulda, coulda, shoulda. And that was my motivation. So I'm proposing to everybody that's listening, that especially the young people, that you got to find your own motivation. So that's what stuck with me. And I used that motivation as a positive to get myself through college. Because the first thing I said to myself after I heard that, and I knew what school I was going to, is that 1, I'm gonna make sure I graduate, and 2, I'm gonna make everybody around me proud. I'm not going to come back home without a degree, and I'm going to prove these people wrong. So I found my motivation to get me where I needed to be. And so I go to the University of Iowa, and I'm on probation, right? Because of the school system that I come from Newark, New Jersey. And so I get there, and you know, this is a school of 30,000 students, and you know, our high school was large, but not to that level. And so it took me a while to adapt. So when you go into a big time program, which is the Big Ten, a big time program like that, when I got there, being on probation, that meant that they had no idea if I was going to be there a week, a month, a year, or 4 years. But I already been given my motivation right from that high school teacher, and so I knew that if they gave me an opportunity, that I was going to make the best of the opportunity. I'm not going anywhere. And so, so while I was there, you know, my first year, you know, I played a little bit. I actually made freshman All-American, but you know, it was tough for me school-wise, obviously. But after my freshman year, and I made it with a 2.0. I think that was the grade point average that you have to continue on your scholarship. So I didn't like the classes that the athletic department was giving athletes. And so I went to this old dean professor at the University of Iowa, and I went into his office, and I just thought he was going to tell me, look at the brochure, and then tell me, take this class, take this class, take this class. But what he did was he taught the top communication class at the University of Iowa. And what he did was he actually sat there from my freshman year and wrote down every class that I should take until I get to my senior year to his class. And it blew me away. And I thanked him for that. And I followed exactly what he gave me. So from my sophomore year, really, to my senior year. So, you know, when I was in the communication class, my first classes, I got D's, and then my next year I got C's and B's and then A's. When I got to his class, it was actually that easy for me. And you remember, I was the guy who came in on probation, but out of the 30 freshmen that came into my class, I was the first and only one to graduate. And I'll tell you why. And that's because not only did I follow his plan, but again, I remember what that teacher said to me. And every year, I know football, you know, most people that come and start at a Big Ten and play defensive back like I did, and I played from my sophomore to my senior year and made all Big Ten and things like that. And you believe that you're going to make the pros, but there's a big possibility that you won't. So I was concerned more about my education once I got into it and learned the ropes. And so what I did was I did internships every year while I was at the University of Iowa. And this is how I got out before anybody else, because I did the internships, and they would give me 12 credits over the summer, plus I would get paid. So I had a plan, right, of how to win the day. I had a plan on how to do that. I can't even tell you how I figured that out, but I knew that, you know, I could get hurt in football. I can not play, you know, they could let me go, all those things. So I wasn't going nowhere without my degree. So I made sure I did those internships every year. And that was in the broadcasting business. So I was in radio, I was in television, I was in recording studios. And so, and believe it or not, when I got to my senior year, I was academic. I made the all academic team, you know, so I was very proud of that. And then, you know, it's like following a plan. So I really enjoyed that while I was there. And then, you know, I graduated, and it's funny. We went to a bowl game, so I told the head football coach, because we left a couple of days ahead of time. I said, Coach, I came to the University of Iowa to graduate, so I know we're going to the bowl game. And he said, well, Keith, I don't know the rules. We'll check with the NCAA. And they did. And so the team went on to California, and I stayed back. I was the only person to stay there because graduation was in 2 days, and I was going to make sure that I walk across that stage before anything happened. And then I did that, and then went on to, they flew me out by myself to California, and we played in the Freedom Bowl at the time. And so, and then before I went to the University of Iowa, they didn't have a winning season for 21 years before I got there. And they was recruiting big time on the East Coast. 5 guys from my high school went to the University of Iowa. And so, because I told you we had a really good program. And so I went to 4 bowl games in a row after them not having the winning season for 21 years. And one of the things that really, really motivated us was they used to call the Big Ten the Big Two and the Little Eight. And, you know, how embarrassing is that? And that was Michigan and Ohio State. So, you know, then I graduated and I got drafted by the USFL in the 6th round as a defensive back. And I elected not to go to the Oakland Invaders because the Cleveland Browns gave me an opportunity to come in as a free agent. And when you're a kid, that's what you dream about. You dream about the NFL and playing in the NFL. So I couldn't think of anything else, you know, but now that I think about it, I probably would have done the USL first and then went to the NFL, but that's okay. You know, they treated me well then. The Cleveland Browns treat me well now. So, you know, I could go there and I play in a lot of golf tournaments for them. So that was that. And then because I had my degree, right, because I really won the day, right, myself winning the day for me was obviously being on probation, finding out how to navigate my way around the university, doing all the internships that I did every year, and then graduating, you know, with honors. And then after I left the University of Iowa, the head coach used to, when the freshmen came in, he used to tell the story about Keith Hunter every year, that this guy came here and we didn't know if he was going to be here a year or 2 years or 4 years. And every time you doubted him, he would prove you wrong. And so that was the motivation from him to the freshmen that came in. So that was a great opportunity. And so once I got out of football, I was with the Cleveland Browns for 2 years and got out of football and decided to be an entrepreneur, right? And so I got into coaching high school football, coaching college football, and then eventually being an entrepreneur to having my own business. And so I coached college football, and then I started in the golf industry. So now, you know, they told you that I'm a golf pro. I'm a playing golf pro. I used to be a playing golf pro. I'm a teaching golf pro. I'm a college football coach, and I'm a speaker, and I'm a college football coach. So I'm doing those things and enjoying what I'm doing, but being an entrepreneur was very filling for me, doing my own thing. And I'll just give you an example. I was in the golf industry. I had my own golf clothing line, men and women clothing line, plus sizes I had. And I started very small. And then I grew probably in 3 years. And then I had the really big displays down at the PGA show. And so I enjoyed that, and I was teaching and I was playing at the same time. So I was really enjoying myself. But just for the young people, again, with the clothing line, just to help you out about if you want to get in the business and win the day, is everybody wants to be a designer, right? And if you really want to be in the clothing business, if you don't have the money to pay for your clothes to come from overseas and then go through the 4 seasons, which most people can't have or don't have. So what I did is, the way you get into business, become do private labeling. So you can get into business tomorrow if you get into private labeling. So that means that for me, the bigger companies that bought all of this clothing and they didn't sell it all, everything was new, I would slap my labels and I would put a package together for myself. So for men, I would put a golf shirt with almost like a matching pants and hat and sweater and things like that together. So they would slap my label in their product, and I would never have to touch the product again. And then they would ship the product to the customers. And I just love that. So, if you say that you want to be in the business, you can get in the business, right? You can't afford being your own designer. So, but if you really want to be in the business, go in and private label, and then it'll happen for you. All right, cool. So let me just give you another affirmation before I move on to how to win the day. Okay, so success is optional. Failure is optional. Winning is optional. Losing is optional. Pain is optional. Healing is optional. Having options is optional. And exploring our options is optional. And that's by Derek Furlow Jr. Now, if I was to add on to that, I would add learning to win the day is essential. All right, so now let's think about that. How to win the day. What is the opposite of how to win the day? It's chasing the day. So a lot of people end up chasing the day, because you wrote down your goals doesn't mean that you're going to get to them. And then so at the end of the day, how do you gauge if you really won the day or not? Right? So I believe that, we know that people make New Year's resolutions every year. And if you check back with them in 3 months, even they forgot what their goal was. So, you got to be able to win the day is a morning ritual. So for some people, that ritual is praying or meditation or listening to music or going to the gym. So that could be your morning ritual, right? So you can set the goals. Now you can set your goals at night before you go to bed, or you can set them in the morning or whenever you need to. I set my goals in the morning. I have already conquered in my mind what my goal is, or what I'm going to do, what I'm going to accomplish throughout the day. And then I'm not going to let anyone destroy that for me at all. So first you have to play it out in your mind. You got to know exactly what you want to do. And then there's our key ingredients in overcoming anything or everything through a learned technique for the process of elimination. So all those other things, or the things that can happen bad for me, my process of elimination have gotten rid of them already, even though they still occur for me, right? So for you, it could be you doing A, B, C, and D, and then you have that planned out, and then some family member call you and tell you something bad, something happened, and then that throw you off of your priorities. And so you got to determine at that moment, is this something that I could deal with in the morning or later on, before you allow something to destroy your goals. Now, there's a lot of people that can't prioritize their day like that, right? They just winging it. And so if that's the case, and you know that's yourself, then you got to get somebody to help you. And that's okay, right? You got to get someone to help you, right? To help you navigate your day and stay on track. And it might be as small as muting your phone for a number of hours so you can do the things that you need to do. It might be that easy. Because it only takes a certain mindset. And you heard that a lot today, right? About mindset and being creative and things like that. So for businesses, just to let you know, right? They don't use win the day. What they use is PDCA, right? Which is, plan, do, check, act. PDCA, plan, do, check, act. So when you're winning the day, you're actually doing the same thing. We just don't call it that. I call it winning the day. So some companies use that format. Other companies use SWOT, SWOT. Strength, weaknesses, options, and threats. It's the same thing as winning the day, right? Strength, weaknesses, options, and threats. It's the same thing as plan, do, check, act. So let me just give you an example from a football standpoint, right? So I'm a coach, and now I'm a coach of a professional football team, or semi-football team, if you want a professional, semi-professional football team. So now one of the things that I would do with my team, right? So everybody says, hey, you got to play for 60 minutes, right? So to get the players to understand how to win the day in that circumstance, what I tell them to do is, don't worry about the 60 minutes. The only thing you're going to worry about, because every play in football only takes 4.6 seconds. 4.6 seconds. So you're going to only explode for 4.6 seconds. Now I took the 60 minutes away from them. And now all you have to worry about is every time that you line up for 4.6 seconds, you're going to explode. Now, isn't that how you win the day? That's how you win the day. So instead of worrying about the big picture, you're only going to worry about this little picture that belongs to you only. Okay, so let me sort of give you the formula of how to win the day, right? It means that it's a system. It's strategies, structure. It takes self-discipline. time management, and strategies and results, and then tracking your results daily. You got to become a master at those things. And so how we do, so how do you start your day? Very important, right? Do you get distracted in any type of way? You got to know that about yourself. Set up your morning routine, right? You know, if you work out first and then you set your routine on your day, or whatever it is that you got to do. And then you got to journal your goals. You got to stay in the present. Stay in the present, right? And focus on your mindset, on a mindset. Transform your daily energy. You got to know how to transfer your energy, right? Don't let people mess with your energy. Choose to transform your step-by-step patterns, right? You got to know your step-by-step pattern. You got to be that detailed. Then you got to have positive momentum, right? So, I don't care who give me something negative. I'm not dealing with it until I choose to deal with it. When I'm locked in on the things that I need to be locked in on, that's the only thing that I know that's going to happen. And then you got to increase your mood and productivity. I mean, productivity of getting things done. Now, a lot of these things sound the same. I get it. But whatever one works for you, that's what works for you. And then if you use these principles, then you have won the day. And so, those things are very, very important. So, I'm always trying to win the day. Hey, I'm in Dallas right now, and just like you heard Fran yesterday talking about where she's at in Texas and all the things that had happened throughout the week with the weather being minus 16. They're not used to that in Dallas, right? So whenever you're trying to win the day, there's always something that's going to disrupt that, and you're just continuing trying to find to win the day. And you got to learn to navigate around that. And all those small things, like a friend, I called him, he had no electricity, right? And his house, he was cold. And so he says, man, he was joking with me, and he go, man, I'm gonna have to learn to win the day on and how to navigate this situation. For instance, we all got to go to the bathroom. So he went to the bathroom anyway, not having water and electricity. And then so how I'm gonna get rid of that? What came to his mind is, I'm going to the swimming pool and I'm gonna scoop up some water, and then I'm gonna pour it down the toilet drain. And that's him, if you want to say, winning the day and making things happen for himself. But as things happen, if you first start off by understanding how to win the day and you have the right mindset, then you don't really have to worry about that, because all the things that you need to know and the characteristics that you need to overcome things, you already have that built in you. I remember the last time talking that I spoke a couple months ago on the Black Business Expo, and I was talking about letting the younger people know that you're familiar with 5G. Right? And 5G is the fastest thing known to man, right? It operates at a blink of an eye. But if you understand that the creator have already put 6G in you, if you already understand that 6G is already, so you are faster than 5G. Your mindset is bigger than 5G. You can overcome anything. The Creator have already given you that. And so if you understand that about yourself, from this day forward, your whole approach would be different because the Creator has already given you 6G. And I can't think of anything that's bigger or faster than that. And so if you understand yourself and you understand the priorities and you understand that everything that comes with that, then it's easy for you to navigate that. So once you truly believe, in yourself, you'll be better at those things. And you'll know that you can overcome anything, and there's no doubt about you winning the day. Like I said, there are life improvement techniques that can help you along and with that action. So I love it, and we have it. We have it all. Here's a win the day moment that me and Dr. Kelly always talk about. And for the people that don't know, Dr. Kelly was a wide receiver. And one of the things that he always state and always say is that, baby, I'm always open. I'm always open. And you got to understand that concept. And I get it, and that just means that, hey, he's going to tell the quarterback, just throw it in the area and I'm going to go get it. And I don't think you can win the day any better than that. And so, but that, power and that energy and letting somebody know that, hey, just throw it there. I'll get it. I'll get there. Obviously, you got to be quick enough to do that. You got to be fast enough to do that. But when you have that type of confidence in yourself, then you can make it happen. So it's no different whether it's football, whether it's business, or whether it's personal. Just like myself, I've interviewed for a number of head coaching jobs for college football. And if you're trying to build a championship culture, right? So I'm really just dealing with the team. But there's not only just the team and the coaching staff. There's a faculty, there's a athletic faculty, and there's a student body. So you can't just get your team to believe in the championship culture. You got to get the whole campus to believe in your championship culture. So to be able to do that, right? That's winning the day for me. Is now I got to get them when I'm not with them that much to believe in my system. First, they got to know what it is. I got to lay it out for them. I got them, the faculty believe in it, and the student body. And then all I'm trying to do is to have one vision and to move together. And if I can do that, man, you can do anything. And I believe that's why teams like Clemson and Alabama are winning and doing the things that they doing, because they understand two things. One is they understand, they understand three things. And one is they understand the power of being a part of a championship culture. And then they believe that there's a thing that's called accountability through shared adversity. So they understand that. And my third one was, for some reason it slipped my mind, but so those are things that it takes to be moving with one vision. They understand that if they're able to do those things, then won't nobody beat them. But again, college football is a business. So whether you're talking about business, whether you're talking personal, or whether you're talking about a football team or a basketball team, it's the same to me, right? So me trying to get the team to see my vision and play it out, right? So where we at, Dr. Kelly? So, and then we have those questions coming through. I asked the audience to please give me some comments on how to win the day. And so let me take some questions. Hello? Okay. Do we have any questions? Any questions about how to win the day? Any questions about plan, do, check, act? About SWOT, strength, weaknesses, options, threats. So just waiting for some questions, some comments. Hello? Oh. Oh, there's something else. Okay. Doctor? Right. Just waiting for some questions, and then I can answer the questions for you. Well, so so while I'm waiting for the questions, I could tell you a little bit more about KGH, and I have KGH as an umbrella just for the young people. You could have a number of businesses under one business. So I call that an umbrella. So you know, being an author and being a speaker, and it's all me, but it's also separate. Someone asked me what's my information to be connected. My website is kghenterprises.com, or you can look up KGH Enterprises LLC on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. The phone number, you can find the phone number and my email address and all of that on there as well. And you'll find my book on there as well that's coming out soon. So let me just share this with you because it's interesting to me. I'm also working on a television show, and just for the young people, just to let y'all know, sometimes people talk themselves out of things. So if I gave a pitch deck to the producer or an investor and they were sold on that, listen, I don't need to talk about anything else. A lot of people will go and talk themselves out of that. Or if they asking questions after that, I'll go ahead and give them a sizzle reel, which is 2 to 3 minutes that will explain exactly what it is. So that's it, man.
Hey, how's it going, man?
All right, doctor.
You know, you were going into the whole sizzle reel and how people talk themselves out of things. And, you know, I really enjoyed that football analysis because you've been a quarterback. And, you know, I'm a wide receiver. It's always good when I see a good cornerback, because as I always say, I'm always open. So we want to thank you for being on this afternoon.
Yes.
You did good last year, and this year you were more incredible and more insightful. And so what we're going to do now, we're going to move on to our next guest. We'll bring up Coco McMillan, and I want to tell you, thank you so very much, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doctor. Oh, Coco.
Yes.
He got excited to see you. He said,
Did he leave?
Yeah, he's good. We're good. We got to move on, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So now we're down to our next guest. And Coco, who do we have coming up next?
We have Miss Demetrius Cheatham. She is the senior director of diversity, inclusion, and belonging strategy. She's implementing diversity inclusion to over 15,000 employees across the world. She was recognized as the National Business Journal Influencer, and she received the 2019 Triangle Business Journal's 40 Under 40 Leadership Award. She was also recently named to the Power 100 list for Black lawyers in America. Introducing to everyone, Miss Demetrius Cheatham.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hey.
I am so delighted to be here. And Dr. Kelly and Coco, I really appreciate the invitation, and Maxine Phillips as well. But one of the things that I have learned is that when you're given a platform, that you have to bring others along with you. And so I'm delighted today that if we can bring up Chastity Cook and Sarah Oyutubo, who will be joining me for this conversation. So I know they're waiting, so we can get them on the screen as well. There's Sarah, and now Chastity.
Well, ladies, before you get started, y'all look like you're getting ready to go back into another sister talk. It's gonna be kind of rough on them. It's getting kind of rough on them, brothers.
That's right.
So my phone is gonna be always ringing. I want to say to you, ladies, I did your flyers, and y'all was so beautiful. It was hurting the brother's eyes. I couldn't concentrate. But I think it's always great when we see young ladies who are doing brilliant things. Coco is working on her moderating, and so I wanted her to come on and introduce you. I've been doing television and radio for over 40 years, and I always want to help people do better. And when I was reading your information about you ladies, I realized how brilliant you are. And I just want to say to you, I know you're going to do an awesome job, but more importantly, I want to say to you, thank you so very much for coming on this global platform. This is the only platform that Black businesses get a chance to say what they want to say. There's no one that's going to be looking on your shoulder. There's no one that's going to be monitoring you other than me, of course. That's going to say anything to you. Now, I will say something if your stuff is jacked up, but other than that, you are able to talk freely, and more importantly, you can say what you want to say. And our audience is to 200 countries, and we're just so proud to have y'all on board. Coco, go ahead and introduce those ladies, and I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to enjoy it like everybody else is. And thank you for coming on, okay, ladies?
Thank you, Dr.
Yes,
Kelly.
thank you.
You. Coco, you might be on mute.
I'm just talking away. But actually, what I would love for you to do, if you could introduce your ladies to us, your panelists, that would be great. And like Dr. Kelly said, we will see you on the other side. I know it's going to be some great informative information, and I'm just so excited to hear and can't wait to start taking my notes. Thank you so much, Demetrius.
Thank you.
Awesome. I don't even think I would do it justice. So Sarah, I'm going to have you introduce yourself, and then Chastity, you introduce yourself, and then we're going to have us a good conversation here.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone. It is such an honor and a privilege to be here with you today. And I have to use this moment to really thank Demetrius. She is a mentor, she is a coach, she is a rock star, and truly someone that I aim to resemble as I grow on my journey. Thank you, Coco. Thank you, everyone, for allowing us to have this platform. It's very rare that we have this. So I had to start with gratitude before I started talking about myself. So thank you, everyone. My name is Sarah Oyutubo. It is an honor to be with you. Since we're talking about Black businesses, I had to rep where I'm from. So I'm a first-generation American representing Jamaica and Nigeria. My mom is from Jamaica, my dad is from Nigeria, so representing a wealth of different diasporic journeys that have led me to this opportunity to be here with you today. I am the Senior Program Manager of Diversity and Inclusion at GitHub. So I work very closely with Demetrius, and I'm really excited to share a little bit about what I think about DI&B with you. So thank you. Chastity, it's all you, girl.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for having us here today. This is such an honor. Like Sarah, I like to start out with gratitude. Thank you so much, Demetrius, for extending this opportunity. That's how we learn and grow, and it's so important in our community to have these opportunities. So thank you so much. I'm super happy to be here. My name is Chastity Cook. I am the global leader of diversity and inclusion at Red Hat for Products and Technology, working with strategy and operations there. A little bit about me. I grew up in a military family, and so didn't move to the United States until I was almost an adult. And so my family and I lived all over the world, and I think my personal experiences as a Black woman, but also living abroad, really helped to kickstart my career in diversity and inclusion, and I'm happy to be able to share that with you all today.
Awesome. And you two know how much I adore you, and I'm so proud of you and all those good things. So this is like a dream come true to even be able to have this conversation with you all. But let's get into it. And so just to let the audience know, when Maxine Phillips extended me this invitation, she said, Demetrius, we want for you to come in and talk about diversity and inclusion. And what I realized is that there's no shortage. If you Google or look anywhere and look up diversity and inclusion, you see tons of articles. That's all everybody's talking about now. And I said, I don't know what new perspective today that I could bring, but I do know that there's another generation that's right behind me that's really just, extending the conversation in a different way. And that's why I wanted to extend it to you ladies. So that could be what you brought to this group here. So without further ado, I want to just go ahead and get started. So the first question is, diversity and inclusion is a very still US-centric conversation. As Dr. Kelly said, there's over 200 countries that are represented here today. And so as diversity and inclusion is starting to gain a lot more momentum globally, I just want to know your thoughts about that. So Chastity?
Yeah. So I'm really excited that what feels US-centric is global. And what it reminds me of is the civil rights movement that was primarily here. And it's largely believed to have just been from 1954 to 1968, and just all of that very vocal and visible resistance to what was going on. But actually, decades before, there were people who were resisting and who really paved the ground for us to be able to have these conversations that we're having today, but really what culminated into the civil rights movement. So the waves that we're seeing globally remind me so much of that. And I'm really excited about that culmination that was similar to the civil rights movement, but really excited to see what that looks like today. What do you think, Sarah?
So I love that you grounded this in history, Chastity. I think that's really important, because as we're thinking about the future, there's so much that we can learn from our past. And Demetrius, this is such a great question. It's a challenge that a lot of us are trying to explore right now. And the number one thing that keeps coming to my mind is that recognizing the privilege that we even have with having this conversation so based in the US, and really challenging ourselves to be more curious about the perspectives of identity and how that is read in different countries. I think one of the things that grounds a lot of the work is, again, I opened up with expressing the fact that I'm first generation here in the US. And so when I talk about my father's experience of coming to the US as a Nigerian immigrant, or my mother's experience of coming to the US as a Jamaican immigrant, I think a lot about the different challenges, the barriers to access, to opportunity that are rooted in their countries that are different from here in the US. So expanding it to just think about what does it mean when we think about the US and the resources that we have versus other countries, and how we can remove some of those barriers to make it more accessible.
Yeah. And so I want to talk a little bit more, and I'm glad Dr. Kelly said that we can have a very frank conversation, right? You all know we've been in this work, say, from 5 years on up to 15, 20 years when you're talking about me. And I remember not even 2 years ago, like it was a struggle to find a diversity and inclusion job, right? But now they're like if you go on LinkedIn or put it anywhere, and I'm sure you don't have to say this by any acknowledgement, recruiters are calling us like crazy. How are you all feeling about the fact that companies now are all of a sudden just everybody wants to hire a diversity and inclusion leader?
Ooh, Chastity, I'm gonna let you kick off.
I'm conflicted. So I obviously think that it's great. Companies should be having these conversations, and they should be opening the doors to have experts lead them through these conversations. At the same time, though, right after George Floyd was murdered, we saw lots of companies putting up their black box on Instagram or Twitter. And then when we go back months later and see how they've changed, or how they've kind of stuck with the commitments that they've made, very few actually have. And so we get into the space where, do I have this job because I'm a token? Or do I have this job because my organization actually cares and wants to make a change? And if so, are they willing to do what it requires? Because it's a culture reset, and that's painful, and that takes a long time. And I don't know, I'm conflicted.
I am also conflicted for a couple different reasons. One of the things that I have been reflecting on are a lot of the folks that are being hired to be chief diversity officers are being removed from the pipeline to being actual CEOs of these organizations. Are we starting to maybe bucket this amazing talent and this wealth of knowledge in a role that's not allowing them to have the greatest impact? And this is not to discourage anybody from going and pursuing a career in this field. It's absolutely necessary, but I just worry about that, the tokenization that is happening with the people that we're selecting for this. And another thing that I think about a lot too is the story of Icarus, flying too close to the sun. The further up we go, are we losing the focus of what grounded this work? It is social justice work, whether we want to recognize it or not. And yet in this role as practitioners, we're balancing the needs of the organization versus the needs of the people. And so I've been hearing folk talk about re-envisioning diversity and inclusion around being about heart work, right? Putting people first and letting profit follow second. I think that is something that's a little bit new to the way that we've approached this work, because all of this has been so tied to the bottom line, but people lead before profit. And so I think it's about companies, again, just really being very clear about what their goal is and making sure that we're getting the right people in all the positions in the organization, not just in diversity positions as well.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this a little later about how you all take care of yourself in this work. But I remember one time when I was first getting into diversity and inclusion, and I asked someone who's I consider a mentor, somebody I looked up to. I said, what do you think about me taking a diversity and inclusion role? And her response is, oftentimes that I see people put Black women in these roles, companies do, and usually the Black women aren't that smart.
Yeah.
And I was floored by that. Like, I had to go and do some serious gut checking after that. So what you all are saying is really hitting home for me, but we're going to come back to that conversation. Chastity, you said something a few minutes ago about workplace culture. Mm-hmm. And so you hear a lot of companies that are focused on culture, and then diversity and inclusion came along, but it's almost like you're treating it as two different things. So I wanted to hear from you all about what you're thinking around this conversation around workplace culture.
I don't always want to kick it off, but Sarah, toss it over to you.
Oh man, okay, so good. So one of the things that I have been really challenging is this idea of culture fit versus culture add. I think a lot of time when we're talking, well, let me backtrack and say, there's a couple different things. I think when we describe what we want our culture to be, we might not actually be putting the practices in place that are going to hold each of us accountable to make sure that we are creating that culture and doing check-ins to make sure that we're fostering that. I also think that as we're looking at talent, one of the issues that I am concerned about is this idea of a culture fit. Which every organization has a culture versus a culture add. And I think that more organizations need to look for culture add. We want to bring in people that are going to disrupt. We want to bring in people that are going to innovate. We want to bring people that have values that are really aligned with where we want to move to, the culture that we want to achieve. Versus a culture where we're at. So I'm hoping to see more fluidity, more honest conversations about matching some of those beautiful statements that we're putting on our website with the people that we're bringing into our organization and the way that we are truly activating that. All right, Chastity, I'm bringing it back to you, girl, because I'm really curious about your answer. I'm here to learn.
Sure. So I'm totally in agreement with the culture fit versus culture add. And what's interesting about it is in tech, there's this sense of openness and collaboration and inclusivity with the cultures. But when you look at how they operate, sometimes it's more in line with culture fit and not add. And what's ironic is that in the tech space, we really value innovation, but we're not that great at diversity. And we know the research shows that diversity yields innovation. And so we've got to make some changes where we're not looking at the culture fit. First, we know what that means. Those are white men. Yeah. But how can we include everyone else so that we can be adding and innovating and then constantly iterating and improving? So yeah, in total agreement with you there.
Yeah. And I think, I was talking with someone earlier today, as a matter of fact, and I was just saying how our parents worked and did things and put up with things so that we wouldn't have to, right? Mm-hmm. And so now we're working and still dealing with things so that hopefully our kids and grandchildren won't have to. But I want to hear from you all, right? Because, I always say you all are the next generation, but now there's another generation after you all that are coming in and they're entering the workforce. What are you anticipating from this new generation? How are you feeling about them when you're talking about Gen Zers that are graduating right now?
Okay.
I'm really excited. Something that I do every single day is I watch TikTok for at least 30 minutes. It's how I unwind every night. It's so entertaining. And then I'll send videos that I love to my family and my parents, and they're always a bit confused about how to watch it. But what I noticed from TikTok is that this next generation, they're unapologetic. They are themselves. It's so freeing to watch them in what we tolerated. What, as a millennial, what I've tolerated, they're not having it at all. And it kind of gives me confidence to say, hey, let's redefine what professionalism once looked like. If I come to a job interview with a t-shirt on versus the collar shirt and a blazer, am I any less capable of doing the job? Generation Z has taught us absolutely not. In fact, I might perform better if I get to bring my whole self to work, if I'm comfortable in what I'm wearing or the way that I look or how I wear my hair. So I'm really excited about them. I think they've got some things in the works that are really gonna make this space a lot better and truly more inclusive.
I am with you 100%. I promise this is not a pub for TikTok. But I also have spent so much time on there as well for so many different reasons. One, it's really interesting. So as we're speaking about generations, I'm a millennial, and it has been really fascinating to be on the other side now. So instead of being a part of the group that's influencing the culture, I am now finding my own host of Gen Zers to be my mentors, my mentors, and really challenge a lot of the beliefs that I've had. To what Chastity was saying about that whole unapologetic approach to this work, I think that that is so true, but I don't think it's completely unique to Gen Z. I think that this has been definitely established by the generations before us, and we're just building off of that. And so I just get really excited about Gen Z for teaching us new ways on how to be unapologetic in this work. And one of the things that one of my mentors, Jackie Glenn, used to say all the time is that you lift as you climb. And what I see Gen Z doing, I think they get called out a lot for call out culture, which I know, guys, we have a lot of different feelings about call out culture, so just stay with me for a second. But what I do feel that call out culture is doing, that Gen Z is pushing forward, is bringing accountability back into this work. I do think that there are opportunities for us to call people into this conversation. We're all on a journey. We're all challenging our bias. We're all learning and growing and expanding. But one of the things that the generations before us have taught us is about accountability. And it's expressed itself in many different ways. And I think that Gen Z is just bringing back to the forefront, calling out behaviors that are preventing us from reaching this goal that we have, which is really championing the spirit of inclusion in all assets.
Yeah. I think from each generation, we're just seeing so much change, right? From one to the next. Like I can say that with millennials, so I'm about 6 months removed from being a millennial, right? So some days I claim millennial, some days I claim Gen X. It just depends on what you listen to. But one of the things about us that were in Gen X, we were taught to work hard, put our heads down, then your due, wait your turn, you're gonna get your rewards and all those things. And that's what we were doing. And all of a sudden, the millennials came and was like, you keep waiting if you want to. I am going to go around you if you don't get it. And so we had to start pushing ourselves, those that are on the tail end of Gen X, to do something a little bit differently. But you all are talking about something that I'm seeing a lot, right? Like if you look back in the 1980s, right? I don't even know if I was born then, but okay, fine. Like you know our history, folks. So 1980s, looking at diversity, right? A lot of the times it was just meant around race, right? And typically African American and Black people. But then the word diversity started expanding. And so you started seeing women. Then you started seeing those with, disabilities. Then you started seeing LGBTQ. Then it's military veterans. And then it's, neurodiversity. And the word just keeps expanding more and more and more. And then you start looking at things around racial comments are now called microaggressions. So it's like the language of diversity and inclusion just keeps changing and expanding, to the point that I think I even told y'all the other day. I was like, we expand the definition anymore. I think there's going to be like one person on earth that is not considered diverse. So I want to hear what your thoughts are about
that. Okay, Chastity. I'm putting you on the spot.
No worries. So I first want to say, Demetrius, I would like to present you with your honorary millennial degree. I'm stuck on microaggression because, frankly, I feel like macroaggressions are things. Everyone says like, you say something tiny and you don't realize, but sometimes things are just flat out offensive. And so I think that the other side also happens. And I think from someone that experiences it, it can start to feel that way as, little microaggressions start to chip away. But Sarah, I was hoping you would take this one because I wanted to think more about that. But
you can tap me at any time.
Oh yes, tap, and then I'll reply. I'm thinking.
No, that's and same. And it's such a good question. It's such a layered and loaded question. So one of the things, just building off of what you said, Chastity and Demetrius, with you calling out microaggressions, I am excited to see a shift with us actually beginning to call things by their names. So I feel like we have tried to make very difficult conversations and very visceral experiences more comfortable and palatable, when we actually really need to call things as they are. It's racism, it's ableism, it's sexism, it's homophobia. And these things are impactful and they're visceral and they impact generations and individuals. And so I think that is something that we have to be conscious of. I think that as us as D&I leaders, we have to go back to that and holding space for people as they unpack the emotions that these very difficult words bring to the forefront of their minds too. I also think that you're talking about the way that the language around diversity is expanding on a more positive note. I think that that is something that's really exciting. Giving credit to Kimberly Crenshaw with bringing intersectionality as a word that we can use freely. And I think that that is allowing us to understand and to hold space and to honor the fact that we are multidimensional beings. We bring so many different facets of ourselves into this space. And the great thing about that is that it allows us to be able to lead with more empathy when we're able to find some of the commonalities that we share in our experiences. I think it allows us to be able to lean in and think about when we are on sides of privilege and when we are marginalized, and how we can use both of those opportunities as a way to push forward and figure out the ways that we can challenge the ways that we are leaving people out and bringing them in, and just really fostering inclusion and challenging those racism and ableism and all those different things that we might be contributing to unconsciously. So,
Yeah.
Cassidy, thoughts? I kind of stumbled through that. We're having an honest conversation, guys. So.
That was beautifully said. So a couple things came to mind. First, with language, I totally agree that it's absolutely important to call a thing. And historically, when you look at it, there were attempts to remove the word racism, or let's not say diverse or minority. And what it did is it undermined the experiences that were relevant and should be heard and should have a space. And so absolutely important that if this is racist or sexist or ableist, that we call that out. I was listening to a TED Talk the other day by Dr. Derek Gay, and he was saying he would like us to stop using the word diversity. And so I'm always a little nervous when someone says, oh, there's this new term in diversity and inclusion, or we should stop using this word, because it's like, we've got a lot of work to do. If we could just stop defining and redefining some of these words and actually do the work, we might make some progress. But what he was saying is that diversity means difference, but we treat diversity as if it means different. And so once we start to look at it from the perspective of difference, we'll see that it's a space where everybody can be included. But when we look at it from different, well, then it starts to make people feel uncomfortable, or how will my life change if I'm open to this? And so language absolutely matters.
Yeah. So it used to be, and you all are familiar with this, quite frankly, before the, unfortunate murder of Mr. George Floyd, it used to be when we was doing this work, folks would be like, well, what's the business case for diversity and inclusion? What's the ROI? Like, tell me why this is going to make a difference for my company. What do you, like I said, that has calmed down a lot as of late. I don't think it's gone anywhere. It's just tempered a little bit. So what do you all say when you're trying to do your work for a company and they say, hey, tell me the business case. Why should I be concerned about this?
I'm tapping you and Chastity.
This always bugs me a little bit when I get this question, because in my mind, just being honest, at the core, I'm like, just be a decent human being. That's the business case. You should want to do that every day you wake up. But the reality is that that's not everyone's experience, and being open to diverse perspectives is not their norm. And so for us, fortunately, it's job security. But the other side of that is that it's kind of sad. So the business case, to have to tie that to the bottom line and say, hey, more diverse perspectives means innovation, which increases your bottom line by at least 30%, versus companies who don't have formal D&I programs and don't incorporate it. They do far worse. And so kind of bugs me, because as you mentioned earlier, Sarah, a lot of this is heart work. So to have to tie it back to the numbers and to show the profitability of it hurts a little and bugs me, but that's the reality of this work. And as you pointed out, Demetrius, it's not happening as much as it used to, but it definitely still happens.
And to your point, Chastity, I think that takes away from the inclusion piece. So I think that we lose out on the benefit of diversity when we are just focused on looking at human beings from a consumeristic, capitalistic perspective. I think one of the things that I've been so excited about with moving into tech, and especially being in open source, is that a lot of the principles of open source organically represent what diversity and inclusion should be. It's about accessibility. It's about community production. It's about co-creating. It's about thinking, challenging the ways that we've approached this, and leading with innovation and curiosity and empathy for the problems that we're solving, for the people that we're working for the solutions that we're trying to drive forward. And so one of the things that hurts me so much is feeling like I have to communicate a business case that is, again, tied to the bottom line, when we know that we just want to create cultures and ecosystems where people can do the best work of their lives. And that is going to organically make sure that you are touching the bottom line. When we're designing and co-creating something that is going to touch everyone, that the numbers will follow. And so I think that goes back to the heart work. If we start focusing on the heart being our customers, like loving our customers, loving our people, loving ourselves. Fortunately, a lot of studies show that helps us to be more profitable, but it can be a little difficult and a little discouraging when you kind of have to keep leading with the business case that's focused on the bottom line and not the heart and the people first.
Yeah. And I want to switch now for our remaining few minutes to talk about you all, both of you. And, both of you have talked over and over again throughout this whole conversation that this is hard work, right? Like heart. And when you're doing hard work and you're focused on empathy and making sure that you hold space for everyone, that's hard work.
Yeah.
Sarah and I did a conversation. It was a fireside chat the other day. And it was titled "The 3 Mistakes I've Made in Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging." It was me talking about my mistakes. And one of the mistakes that I said was I assumed that going to lead diversity and inclusion in a tech company was going to be a piece of cake. It was going to be easy because I've done it in nonprofit space. I've done it in government. And I was like, oh yeah, tech is easy. They're so forward thinking and whatever. This has been hard work. And Chastity, I used to work with you at Red Hat and Sarah with you at GitHub. And y'all know that this has been some hard work. And you have to take care of yourself, because while we're taking care of others, we're usually in the impact personally, our families and our communities. So I want to know from you all, how do you take care of yourself while you're leading this work from a professional perspective?
Yeah. I do a number of things. So the first is that, and these are practical. I hope that it's okay to share a little bit of practicality here. But when I first started at Red Hat, I had meetings probably from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And when I did start at Red Hat, I was working with our employee resource groups. And that is hard work, because they come to you with what they're experiencing, their troubles, their joys. And I honestly started to take that on. And I had to start to separate myself and just kind of say, hey, when you're in this space, your work, Chastity, definitely take into account what they're saying and then translate their feelings and experiences to leadership to try to create some strategies or frameworks to make Red Hat a better place. But I had to take control of my calendar first. The other thing that I did, and I'm saying this and sharing it because it needs to be normalized, is that I had to talk to someone. Let's normalize having conversations or going to therapy and just say, I'm doing this and it's draining. Also, what's happening externally with Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, knowing all of that, being who I am, I bring that to work. So there's that as well. The chat, that distracted me.
I think we have a proposal here.
No, I appreciate that. Then something that a therapist once said is she challenged me to take 48 hours every month to myself. And that was hard. So I said, okay, I'll start with 24. And I've not gotten to 24 yet. But that's something else that I do. And I have a 7, he's 6, he's almost 7. I have a 6, almost 7-year-old little boy. And just thinking about how me working from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. impacted him and how I didn't get to see him. And he's my greatest joy was like, come on, you're not being your best self, even at work. If you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not spending time with your son. And so those are just practical things that I really had to do to take care of myself in this space so that I could be a great worker in this space.
Yeah. Sarah?
Those were such good points, Chastity. I'm taking notes. So I think one of the biggest realizations that I came to last year especially was the reality of DEI burnout. And I don't think it's something that we talk about a lot. So thank you for this question, Demetrius, because it is actually really important, especially again, because this work is visceral. Like the impacts of the problems that we're trying to solve have real huge impacts on our day-to-day lives. One of the things that I have been trying to normalize for myself are establishing healthy boundaries. I think that is something that I have never been told was okay, and I got to give credit where credit is due. This has come from all my Gen Z mentors that have really challenged me to learn how to say no, to learn how to cut those hours, to take care of myself, because, you know, when we're thinking about pouring so much into this organizations and into others, it has to come from a place of abundance, not from a place of lack. I can't do my best work at an organization when I am lacking and I'm not feeding into myself. So boundaries is really important. I think honoring the fact that there is workplace trauma that we're all trying to deal with too, that as much as we're trying to solve a lot of these major issues, we're also on the receiving end of that. And part of that is recognizing the need for healing and working with the right people. And then also establishing boundaries for my family and my friends is something that I've been really trying to do too, to protect them as well. So I think, Chastity, to your point of getting the right care, normalizing having a therapist, Demetrius, you're the one that holds me to that all the time. You're absolutely right. You know, normalizing taking time to rest, not feeling like we have to perform and push all the time. That it is okay to use your vacation days. It is okay to turn your phone off. It is okay to binge Netflix if that is what you need. I think those are some of the things that I think about a lot.
Yeah.
Just to take excellent care of ourselves.
And the thing that you all, and you're right, I talk about therapy and coaching all the time. A therapist and a coach, anybody that's in this work, I always tell you to go get it, and definitely your mentors. But the one thing that you both have taught me is to make sure that I give myself grace and space.
Yes.
As well as to, you know, sit in gratitude. Both of these ladies will tell you I'm one of those people that don't like compliments a lot. And I tell them, I'm like, go ahead with the mushy stuff. And they force me to do it anyway. And so I'm always eternally grateful for that. So we're wrapping up on our last 2 minutes here. And so I want each of you, Sarah and Chastity, to just take 1 minute or maybe 45 seconds, because I need like 30 seconds to wrap up. And just tell me, who are you in this space? Right now, today, who are you?
This will sound bad at first, but I'm going to clarify. So I am 2 different people. And what I mean by that is the Chastity that you might have seen at an interview or who you first met is not all of me. And that's because when I go into those initial encounters, I want to do this work so badly. I feel like it's safe with me. I'm passionate about it. I want the opportunity that I'm going to be who I need you to believe me to be, if that makes sense, in order for me to be in this space. And so once I get there, it's like, okay, I'm unpacking these layers. Here's who I am. Here's what I can do. And I will say it, sometimes that's kind of caused an existential crisis. But I think that that's okay. I'm someone who's very introspective, and I always like to think, you know, why did you do this? Because I believe more than anything, to thine own self be true. Like, I'm never gonna lie to myself. And so at first, I'm who I need to be in order to do this work. It's so important to me. It's my life's work. But once I'm there, I'm going to tell you like it is. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to be quiet. If I'm quiet, you should know something's up with what you said. It's kind of funky. I have a problem. Let's have a chat about that. Or I'm vocal and I'm telling the truth. I'm also someone who is protective of this space. Is so important. Again, going back to that heart work, that people have been hurt. And so we've got to take care of it. That's why I feel like it's safe with me, because I do think about how what I say, what I do, how these practices and policies impact every single person. And I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm saying I'm willing to take it out and open source it so that people can collaborate and add their perspectives as well. But sometimes people enter this space and they don't have the education or the background, but because they identify themselves as diverse, they think that they have all the answers. And so I stay here, even though sometimes it can be challenging and exhausting, because I love it, but because I feel like it's safe with me and with people like us.
I love that you keep saying it's safe with me. That is so beautiful, and that just resonates so deeply. And I hope that in the organizations that I work with, that folk have felt that it's been safe with me as well. So who am I? Ooh, we had a really good conversation around this. I could sit here and call myself a subject matter expert, and I'm not going to downplay my wealth of knowledge and experience in this work, but I prefer to lead with saying I'm a subject matter enthusiast. And the reason why I lead with that is because I'm so passionate about the stories of people. Like for me, I am so committed to learning, to growing. When I talk about D&I, it is truly a journey. I don't know if we'll ever know what the end looks like. And I'm okay with that, because I am deeply, truly, authentically committed to the journey and going on this journey together with everybody. I think that there is just so much wealth of knowledge, and I challenge what we mean when we talk about expertise. The only person that I'm an expert on is my own story, and even that I'm challenging myself to unpack and figure out who I am and how I've been socialized to think and perceive the world as I do. So I would say, I hope that because I lead with that at the forefront of my mind, of wanting to be curious and compassionate, to hold the mirror up to myself all the time in this work, because I feel like with this platform, it comes with so much responsibility to never get stagnant or comfortable with the status quo, but to continue to disrupt and innovate, that folk will see that in me and believe that this can be not only safe with me, but safe with us as we co-create this journey together.
Yeah. Ladies, I have to tell you that sometimes when you're so good, you get more time. So we got 7 more minutes. Dr. Kelly said we're for 10 more minutes. I think we got 7 more minutes here. Chastity, when all of us were speaking, I think it was just on Friday, you said that at first you were like, I have to stay in this space because it's safe with me. Mm-hmm. That really resonated with me, and I just felt it all over me when you said it again right then, and Sarah echoed it. And the reason being, and I can be transparent, we were just talking about it, but this work is so hard. A lot of people assume that diversity and inclusion is about going to HBCUs and going to the career fairs and passing out swag and all that good stuff. I always say that's like less than 1%. I don't even think when we were at Red Hat, we ever even got to do that.
No.
Not even our work. And so the thing about it is, all of us have had very open and vulnerable conversations with each other about, should we even be doing this? Mm. There's a lot more easier things that we could be doing, where we could go to those college campuses and do the things we want to do. But we've always said that it's so dangerous to have this space and the work that we do in the wrong hands. Yeah. That's why it ticks me off when I hear folks say, oh, they just give this work to Black women and that's it. I'm like, I think this is a family conversation, so I'll leave it there. But what are some of the, say for instance, if you had a friend or something that called you and said, hey, I want to get into diversity and inclusion. What are those, qualifications that you would say that a person would need in order to succeed in this space?
You need to definitely not be easily moved by feelings by insults, by microaggressions or macroaggressions. You need to be able to set that aside and see the bigger picture. You have to make some sacrifices within yourself to say, okay, this hurt me, but how do I get from point A to the finish line? What needs to happen here? This is something that you taught me, Demetrius. It's something that I'm still developing, but how to think quick on my feet. Like, okay, this just happened. This is not what I planned. How can I quickly pivot to get us to the goal? Again, we talked about you probably need a therapist, and Demetrius added you need a coach, and a good support system around you if possible. And the last thing I would add is that, and I alluded to this earlier, be honest with yourself. And really, it looks glamorous, and I love doing it, but it is hard work. It takes a long time to move the needle. And if you're not in it for the long haul or you want to see quick results, this is not that space.
Sarah, anything you'd like to add?
Ooh, you both covered so much. So, okay, I know that there are some people in the chat who have literally asked me about getting into this work. So you guys know that I'm being honest. I would first say that you're already doing diversity and inclusion work. So do not come into this space because you're actually able create more impact in your roles than you are having this hat. You do not need this hat to be able to drive this work forward. So I encourage you to keep climbing, keep leading, because we need you at the top of these organizations to actually create the culture that we're hoping to co-create with you. To Chastity's point, you shared so much. I keep emphasizing the fact that curiosity, a commitment to being curious is so important. I think that this space is constantly shifting and evolving because culture and society are constantly shifting and evolving. So some of the best practices that worked for us even last year aren't relevant in this post-pandemic world that we're living in. We're constantly being faced, again, to Demetrius' point earlier, with new dimensions of diversity, with new barriers that we need to address, new challenges. So being really having tenacity and being very curious is really important here. I think you have to definitely be a strategist because you are constantly constantly fighting so many battles and putting out so many fires at the same time. I think that you have to be willing to fully commit to this work and not seek out validation. It is sometimes a thankless job. I know that sometimes you see folk on these beautiful platforms and you think that, oh, it comes with all these accolades, but you don't see all the tears and all the lonely nights and all the long nights and the exhausting nights where people are just exhausted from having to fight for something that is so close to our heart and trying to get other people to have this be something that they're equally passionate about. And I think that you actually first and foremost need to care about people. It's people first. 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 And I'm going to keep saying that because if we lose sight about who we're actually doing this work for, which is our communities, then we're going to lose, we're going to get lost on this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think we really got 2 minutes left now. So for everybody that's out there, I just want you all to, what are your parting thoughts? What if, when people walk away from this and they say, we learned this today from these young women, what would you want them to walk away with?
Yeah, and Sarah, I think you kind of pointed to this, but this is not just us, this is our work. Yeah. And so whether or not you have the education or credentials to be in this space, this makes all of our lives better. So join us, do what you can, reach out to us on LinkedIn or not Facebook. I just started a Facebook, I think, to have this conversation today. So I won't reply back to you, but check me out on LinkedIn. But yeah, this is our space. So yeah, let's have these conversations. They're important. Don't shy away from it. Lean in. When you're uncomfortable or if you make a mistake, I make mistakes. And I've been doing this for 12 years. And I'm happy to apologize and be taught by other people, by Generation Z. Yeah, this is our space. Welcome.
That was so beautiful, Chastity. Wow. So thank you everyone for the love in the chat. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that. I think I want people, I appreciate all the love that you guys are pouring into us, but I want to take a moment to recognize that we are just building off of the work of those that came before us. We're literally continuing the work that so many people had to fight hard. And even Demetrius was just sharing her platform as a message to each of you that, you know, there is just a wealth of knowledge and expertise everywhere. And when we tap into it and we share it and we go on this journey together, we can grow and expand so much further than we ever anticipated. What do I want people to leave with? I want people to leave with hope. I think that this work can get very discouraging. I think when we look at the numbers and we look at the statistics and we think about focusing on an end goal, it's really easy to get discouraged and to lose sight of the fact that this is truly 100% a journey. It's not going to end with Chastity and I eventually going back to that concept of lifting as you climb. We're going to be passing the torch to the next generation of leaders. They're actually already here. They're on TikTok teaching me every day about what I should be doing in this role. So I really think that it's about really recognizing that we are all collectively on this journey together, that each of us, no matter where we are, brings so much value. And as long as we continue to push forward, to challenge ourselves, to hold that mirror in front of ourselves and ask better questions, and be willing to lean in, as Chastity said, and commit to the work, that we can achieve a lot more, a lot faster than we ever hoped for. So thank you to each of you. You guys are already champions just by listening into this conversation.
Everyone, thank you so much, Maxine, Coco, Dr. Kelly, and I just want to say, Chastity and Sarah, thank you so much for who you are to me in my life and my profession. I know that you all are over preparers and all those good things. So when I text you on Friday and say, will you do this with me? Both of you did not hesitate to say yes, and that's the trust that you all have had in me, and that's meant so much to me in my career. So to be a part of your journeys is just such a gift and a blessing, and I thank you so much. Dr. Kelly, over to you.
Thank you.
You know what? I want y'all to go on for another hour. Another hour. You know, my mother is the chairman of the Black Business Expo board. And we talked about what you guys just did. And I took notes. And I heard some stuff I've never heard before. And I thought, I know I'm old, but I thought I was on top of my game. And when one of you ladies said microaggressions, I never heard that before. And it just blew me away by the way that you explained what it was. And I'm sure that the audience, some of the audience probably never knew what that was about, because a lot of people don't really know what diversity is. And another thing that one of you ladies said that was powerful was a difference and a different. Difference and a different. That was really, really key when you have this conversation. And then the call out culture. Y'all, I'm telling you, I was taking notes. I would have put y'all another hour. But what I want to say is, when I talked to my mother about this particular section, the diversity section, we were torn between what Demetrius did, the young group and the older group, because we're sitting on a pedestal of we're moved on, and y'all on the pedestal of coming in, and then there's another group that's saying, wait a minute, we're on our way up. And so one of the things that me and my mom's talked about is doing the Black Business Network with just all young people, you know, so that we can really hear, because the torch, it's called the Black Business Olympics, the torch is already passed to you guys. And as I told a group before, I said, when I was 35 and 40 years old, I was trying to run the world. I said, but when you get to be 60, you want to give it to people who will run the world correctly. And I want to tell you ladies, I have just enjoyed you. So I'm going to get y'all's number and I'm going to bring you back, because Oprah up there was bringing out the noise in both of y'all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kelly.
And I want to thank you ladies for being on. We look forward to the great things that y'all are going to do. And I know that diversity and inclusion in you two ladies, in you three ladies' capable hands, are in the right hands, because we hear people talking about diversity and inclusion, and we see other nationalities being our diversity inclusion, and they have no clue or how we really feel deep down. So again, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good day.
And y'all have a great evening. And as we get ready for Dr. Sandra Johnson, we're going to tell you that's what we're talking about on the Black Business Network, where you get a chance to open up and talk about how you feel without worrying about what somebody's going to say to you. And again, as we continue to go on, I have my good friend, the beautiful, the lovely, Dr. Sandra Johnson. How you doing, Dr. Johnson?
I am doing well. I am definitely doing well. Dr. Kelly, how are you today?
I'm doing great. And you know, we had you last year, and I could not, think of doing the network without having you again. And that's why, even though I know I called you a little late, I just asked you, I said, what time do you want? And I moved people around just to make sure that we would hear your incredible voice, because you really are a true star in our community. And our Black business thought leaders and entrepreneurs need to hear from you. And I want to thank you for being on again. And I'll see you on the other side.
Okay. All right. No problem. So good evening, everyone. It is certainly a pleasure to spend some time with you this evening. I am happy to share some time with you. I want to spend some time with you talking about really two things as it relates to, business and 2021. We've been through some difficult times last year in 2020. We are going through some difficult times this year so far, but we can see a light at the end of the tunnel. So I want to share with you some words of wisdom, if you will, some motivators for those in business. And I am speaking from the perspective of a tech startup company, okay? Because that's what I know best. However, what I discuss is relevant for all types of businesses. Actually, it's just relevant for life in general, but I will focus the discussion on businesses in general and tech startup companies specifically. And I'm going to break this conversation up because it's a conversation. And I do see the chat. So if you have any questions, just type them in. And I will respond as we go through this process. So the first part of this conversation is to share with you some motivators to encourage you and to inspire you as we go through this process with our businesses. And then the second part of the conversation is to encourage you to be innovative and creative above and beyond what you've already done thus far, because it is during difficult times that some of the most successful companies, the seeds are planted for those companies during difficult times. So I want to share with you some history, some background, and some motivation about taking advantage, if you will, of the current climate in this country and globally to innovate and take your business to another level. And then I want to spend just a few minutes talking about my own company for those of you who may be interested. So first, the motivation, right? So I want to share with you more or less four points, four motivators as you go through your business, as you go through your process. And that is know who you are, right? You are the foundation of your business. If you're an entrepreneur, a small business owner, a single sole proprietor, know who you are as an individual. Know your capabilities, know your limitations, know your skills, know your weaknesses, etc. Because when you know who you are, then you can put together a team around you that can complement your strengths with their strengths that may be your weaknesses, so that collectively, synergistically, you can put together a team that can take your business to another level. Okay. So it is very important as a foundation for your business to know who you are as an individual and know your capabilities as someone, as a leader who runs a business or who is part of a business. And always take the opportunity to improve upon yourself. Okay, know who you are. If you know what your strengths are, you can share with others and build the strengths of others on your team as well as in the broader community. And for your weaknesses, you know, as I alluded to earlier, you know, bring in people who have the strengths where your weaknesses are, and you can learn from them. You can also educate yourself as well, so that you can, over time, as long as you're in the earth, you know, continue to improve on who you are, right? But also, again, as a foundation, know who you are. The second motivator that I want to share with you is be competent and confident, right? In order to be successful in whatever you do, you truly have to believe that you're going to be successful, right? As a man thinketh, so is he or she. So be competent about your skills and abilities, about your business, and the level of success your business is going to have, right? Don't let other people define who you are, what your business is. You define you. You define your business. You are the captain of your ship. You steer your ship to where you want it to go, right? Because you will encounter people who will, you know, for whatever reason, whether